The next chapter of the audiobook, The Go-Giver, is The Law of Influence. Perched on the top floor of the city's tallest and most elegant office business, the regional headquarters of the Liberty Life Insurance and Financial Services Companies was located right in the heart of the financial district. Most of the building's 24 floors were rented to the city's top investment companies and law firms. The 22nd and 23rd were occupied by Liberty. Sam's offices, where Joe and Pinder were headed, took up the entire 24th floor. Inside the front door, Pinder signed them in with the security guard. They passed through a beautifully appointed lobby and entered a tall glass elevator framed with exquisite filigree and floored with plush, royal blue carpeting. They must sell a lot of policies, whispered Joe. This is the single most successful branch office of the single most successful financial services company in the world. Pinder whispered back, "You are about to meet the person who single-handedly accounts for more than 3/4 of all the money this particular branch brings in. You must be Joe." The beaming, white-haired gentleman grabbed Joe's hand with both of his own and shook it vigorously. His voice sounded like a creaky gate hing. "It is about time the old man brought someone around I could have some fun talking to. He is boring," and he thumped Pinder on the shoulder. As Sam wheezed with laughter and led his guests to two sumptuous leather chairs, Joe glanced around the place. The vast 24th floor workspace looked more like an airplane hangar than a corporate office. The vaulted ceiling and huge skylights were at least 20 feet overhead. Through the two huge plate glass walls that formed the corner office's perimeter, Joe could see that amazing western mountain landscape beyond the city. Joe tore himself away from the view to focus on the conversation as Pinder and Sam ping-ponged through a brief histories of Sam's career. Sam Rosen had started out as a struggling insurance agent. Over the years, he gained a reputation as an especially fair-minded businessman. People started calling on him to serve as a negotiator or in their more difficult dealings as a mediator. After establishing himself as the firm's top salesman, he broadened his focus and began serving as a full-spectrum financial advisor for select clients. In his early 60s, Sam shifted gears yet again. He began to work with non-profits, especially those helping the financially disadvantaged, the homeless and the hungry. Today, Sam was the state's #1 philanthropist and spent most of his time negotiating large contracts on behalf of worldwide charities. When I first met him a little over 30 years ago, added Pinder, he had already amassed over $400 million in sales, more by far than anyone else in the history of his company. "You must be the best insurance salesman in the world," ventured Joe. Should be, Sam agreed. "I started out as the worst. When my goal was to sell insurance, I was no good at all. My first few years in the business, I floundered like a turtle on his back. Tell you what it was, turned things around and set me right side up." Joe held up one finger and said, "May I guess the idea of giving more in value than you took in payment?" "Not a bad guess," said Sam, changing my focus from seeing what I could get to what I could give. Was when my career started to take off. But in a business like mine, actually in any business, you also need to know how to develop a network. He looked directly at Joe. "Do you know what I mean by network?" In fact, Joe had just been thinking that networking was something he indeed knew all about. But the question caught him by surprise and he quickly shook his head. "No, I mean, yes, I think I do." He paused. "But I will bet I don't," he finished lamely. Sam's eye twinkled with warmth. The old man was right again, as usual. He said, "I would like you." Joe blushed. Sam continued, "Now by a network, I don't necessarily mean your customers or clients. I mean a network of people who know you, like you and trust you. They might never buy a thing from you, but they have always got you in the backs of their minds. He leaned forward and spoke with more intensity. They are people who are personally invested in seeing you succeed, and of course, that is because you are the same way about them. They are your army of personal walking ambassadors. When you have got your own army of personal walking ambassadors, you will have referrals coming your way faster than you can handle them. Joe had always considered himself an accomplished networker, but he now found himself re examining every business contact and networking relationship he had. An army of personal walking ambassadors. Did that describe his network? Were all these people he knew personally invested in seeing him succeed? Did that description fit any of them? Sam spoke again in a quiet voice this time. You want to know what makes that kind of network happen, Joe? Joe looked up and met Sam's gaze. I do. The old man's eye bored into Joe. Stop keeping score. Joe blinked. How? How do you mean? Sam settled back into his chair. Just that. Don't keep track. That is not networking. That is poker. You know how people say win-win? Joe nodded. Always look for the solution where you both come out ahead. Sam nodded. That's right. And it sounds great. In theory. But most of the time, what people call win-win is really just a disguised way of keeping track. Making sure we all come out even. That nobody gets the advantage. Even Steven, I scratched your back, so now you owe me. He shook his head sadly. When you base your relationship in business or anywhere else in your life on who owe you who what, that is not being a friend, that is being a creditor. Joe remembered what he would said last Friday on the phone. Come on, Carl, you owe me one. He who saved your bacon on the Hodge account. Sam leaned forward again. You want to know the third law of stratospheric success? Joe nodded very much indeed. Watch out for the other guy. Watch out for his interest. Watch his back. Forget about 50-50. Son, 50-50 is a losing proposition. The only winning proposition is 100%. Make your win about the other person. Go after what he wants. Forget win-win. Focus on the other person's win. Here it is, Joe, the third law, the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interest first. Joe repeated it slowly. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interest first. Sam nodded, beaming. Joe hesitated, glanced at Pinder, then back at Sam. That sounds like an awfully noble principle, he began, but I don't quite understand. Sam peered at him. Don't quite get how. That is a law of success. Relieved, Joe nodded. Exactly. Sam looked over at Pinder and nodded towards Joe as if to say, you tell me. Pinder spoke up. Because if you place the other person's interest first, your interest will always be taken care of. Always. Some people call it enlightened self-interest. Watch out for what other people need, with the faith that when you do, you will get what you need. Sam nodded and watched. Joe grappled with this idea for a moment, then said, tell me, if you asked most people what creates influence, what would they say? Joe's answer came without hesitation. Money, position, maybe a history of outstanding accomplishments. Sam nodded, grinning. Ha, you are right. That is exactly what they would say. And they would have it exactly backwards. Those things don't create influence. Influence creates them. And now you know what creates it. That is influence. Joe blinked, putting other people's interest first. Sam's smile was beatific. Now you are talking. Joe followed Pinder into the elevator, side by side. They watched the door close. As they began their descent, Pinder broke the silence. How would you describe Sam? Amazing, brilliant, magnetic. Magnetic. Pinder seemed to ponder the word. What about Nicole? Would you describe her as magnetic? Absolutely, one of the most striking people I have ever met. Pinder looked at Joe and said, tell me, what is it about her that makes her so? Joe had to think about that. What was it that made her so striking? I don't know. She's just magnetic. Pinder smiled like Sam. It was hard to imagine two more different people than the charming young school teacher and the raspy old financier. But yes, they were somehow very much alike, and not just them. Yes, the Ernesto too. And he was going to say, and you too. But stopped short. He stared at Pinder. What is it? You know, don't you? Bing. They had reached the ground floor. The door slid open and Pinder gestured with his hand. After you. As they walked through the marble, steel, and glass of the building's majestic foyer, Pinder uttered a single word: giving. What about giving? That is what they have in common: giving. He glanced sideways at Joe and smiled. Have you ever wondered what makes people attractive? I mean genuinely attractive. Magnetic. He pushed on the big glass door and they walked outdoor into the warm September day. They love to give. That is why they are attractive. Givers attract. They walked silently toward his car. Givers attract, thought Joe. And that is why the law of influence works. Because it magnetized you. So, the third law of the book is the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interest first. And here comes the end of this chapter. Thank you.